Welcome back to something quite different on my channel, as this will be, to date, the only top 10 video I've ever done. But I'm doing it for a very good reason, because today I'm going to be talking about one of the best horror, suspense, thriller TV shows, Inside Number 9. Inside Number 9 is brought to you by Steve Pemberton and Reese Shearsmith, who are two of the three people who created another cult classic dark comedy, The League of Gentlemen. I can't even begin to describe that show to you. If you don't know what it is, let me just say that if you watch one episode, you'll hate it. If you watch 2 episodes, you'll be intrigued but still creeped out. But if you watch 3 episodes, you'll be hooked for life. The use of memorable characters and infinitely quotable lines allowed it to garner devoted fans very quickly, who can't help but think,
"What's all this shouting? We'll have no trouble here."
Or perhaps,
"Oh, you're my wife now,"
at the mere mention of the show's name. But anyway, back to Inside Number 9. It takes a Tales from the Crypt anthology approach to storytelling, as every episode is a completely individual story. The show's title is a reference to the 1944 Ingrid Bergman film Gaslight, because the film's murder plot and scheming takes place at number 9 Thornton Square. And that gives you a clue about how all the episodes play out, as all the plots of each episode take place in and around a number 9 something, whether it be an apartment, a shoe, a thatch roof hut, or anything. It's one of the few connections all the episodes have. The other connection is that Steve Pemberton and Reese Shearsmith play at least one character in every episode, which might sound repetitive or tedious, but trust me, these two guys are shapeshifters when it comes to acting. The makeup and costume helps, but this is still pure acting talent, on top of the fact that the duo wrote all the episodes as well, which shows just how good these guys are. And if you watch a few episodes, you certainly won't see the same thing twice. It really goes out of its way to give the viewer something new and original each time, even between genres. One episode might be a murder mystery. Another might be a zany comedy delivered in Shakespearean iambic pentameter.
Welcome to Hotel Zanzibar. I see you have not stayed with us before, but please, feel free to linger in our corridor and take a butcher's around the 9th floor.
Yes, really. But all the episodes will have a delightful combination of dark humour, sheer Britishness, and truly incredible suspense and thriller style horror that will keep you hooked to each episode and wanting to come back for more. But one thing is guaranteed. There will be a big twist at the end, and you most certainly won't see it coming. So join me as I go through my top 10 favourite episodes of Inside Number 9. Well, so far, as the show has had 4 series, but there are certainly more on the way. And don't worry, although I'll give a brief review of each episode, I'm going to try and not spoil any twists for you. Number 10. Once Removed. According to the Holmes and Ray stress scale, the 3 most stressful experiences in life are the death of a spouse, divorce, and imprisonment. Moving house is only 32nd on the list, but anything could happen in the last 10 minutes. We start with one of the stranger episodes, in terms of the way the story is told, as it takes place in reverse. As in, the episode plays out in 10-minute increments going backwards, which is fairly original to say the least, and it's really fun to go into a story not knowing what the hell is going on, but have all the blanks filled in slowly. As the name punningly suggests, the episode revolves around a woman moving house. However, things don't go quite as planned, namely as a few bodies show up, some fresher than others. And of course, as the episode progresses, we'll discover how and why they got there. And despite me talking about how the twists are fantastic and unexpected, with Once Removed, it's more a case of mini reveals and twists as the story is further explained, which means I can't really talk much more about it and keep things spoiler free. But it is a good episode with an interesting format. The story itself is a bit more standard than the others on this list, however, it's still a funny and suspenseful episode. Number 9. Burnie Clifton's Dressing Room. It's been 30 years since Northern double act Len and Tommy last appeared on stage together. Then Tommy walked out on Len, and that was curtains for cheese and crackers. Until now, and one last gig in front of an invited audience. Burnie Clifton's Dressing Room is purely a two-hander between Shearsmith and Pemberton, and this is one of the few episodes that has no suspenseful or horrific elements at all. However, it's no less gripping. Former comedy double act Cheese and Crackers join up for one last gig, but due to an incident involving the dressing room of Burnie Clifton 30 years prior, there's not really many laughs to go around. The majority of the comedy of the episode is through Len and Tommy rehearsing their act, which is a throwback to the days of variety in vaudeville. However, there are also some really clever jokes pointing at the fact perhaps part of their act might not be appropriate today.
No, we can't do it because they're all yew tree.
They're not, are they? Oh, God, you're right.
However, it's the drama of the episode that really sticks with you, with Tommy angry at Len for stealing the limelight, and Len angry at Tommy for what he considers killing their double act. A masterpiece of drama to be able to get across who these two men are, who they were, and understanding their point of view, all within 30 minutes. It's fantastic. And with a climax and twist ending that is truly heartbreaking to watch. This episode will stick with you unlike any of the other episodes as far as I'm concerned. Number 8. The Devil of Christmas. A director talks about his old horror film. It's Austria, Krampusnacht, December 1977. The Devonshires arrive at the Alpine chalet for a holiday. The caretaker, Klaus, tells them about a local legend of Krampus, the Devil of Christmas. The Devil of Christmas, in terms of the acting, is my favourite, because you have to be a damn good actor to intentionally act this badly. The episode takes on the form of an old, crappy horror movie being commentated over by its director.
Sorry, could you just introduce yourself so people know who you are?
Oh, yes, I'm Dennis Fulcher, and I was the director of this piece.
With a fantastic cameo from Derek Jacobi, adding an air of authenticity to the story. Rula Lenska, 70s and 80s TV icon, although she's still going strong today, also makes the faux 70s aesthetic seem more credible. And boy, were they dedicated to making this episode look like it's from the 70s. From the clothes, which are all authentic to the time, and in order to produce that kind of lighting artifact, the camera equipment had to be from the 70s as well. It's extreme attention to detail that I can really appreciate. The majority of the episode is just hokey comedy. However, when you add in the episode's twist, it becomes something truly unsettling to watch a second time round, with some clues from Derek Jacobi signposting what you might have missed the first time.
Not the best actor in the world, but very hard to find a good child, given the subject matter of the film. The whole pregnancy thing was my idea. I just thought it would tee up the ending, if you sense there was something inside Kathy, making it more poignant in a way.
Some twists are like a revelation, where everything that has happened so far suddenly comes together, and it's a relief to have all that information. This episode's twist isn't a relief. It's a punch straight to the gut, turning a campy, laughable suspense film into a thoroughly depraved horror. Number 7. La Couchette. A group of passengers on a train from France try to get some sleep, but the compartment quickly fills up and the possibility of sleep dwindles away. Then, one of the passengers suddenly dies. La Couchette seems to be an exercise in how small they can make a set and yet still have a compelling story, as it all takes place within a train sleeper carriage. And of course, the lack of space is constant fuel for comedy. And of course, the conflict between the characters as well. We have a Dr. Maxwell who is on his way to an interview with the World Health Organization, Jorg, a drunk German, Kath and Les on the way to their daughter's wedding, and the stereotypical Aussie backpacker Shona. And like I said, there's plenty of comedy in this episode, but naturally, it all turns dark. When one of the passengers is discovered dead by trust fund idiot Jack Whitehall, playing a trust fund idiot Hugo, looking to have it off with Shona. The question becomes, should they report the man's death? If they do, they will be unable to reach their destination on time. Maxwell really doesn't want that to happen, as it could mean losing a scientific grant, and Hugo doesn't want the train staff to know he's a stowaway without a ticket. The episode is mostly comedy, however, once the body is discovered, it slowly continues this dark downward spiral. There's a few comedic moments here and there and at the end to keep the story from being truly dark, so it's more light-hearted than many of the other episodes. Even the twist itself has its own comedic little twist, so it very much fits into the dark comedy category. Number 6. The Bill. A group of friends go out for a meal after a day of badminton, but tempers escalate quickly and they can't agree on how to settle the bill. Who will pay the ultimate price? I do think an episode like this could only be created by British people because of the bizarre combination of politeness and competitiveness. You have Craig, the wealthy Londoner, played by Philip Glenister. Shearsmith and Pemberton play Archie and Malcolm, who do the majority of the arguing, and Jason Watkins is Kevin, who's the poorest of the group. There's also a large emphasis and even poking fun at the differences in North and South England. You have Craig, who's depicted as considerably wealthier than the others, and the Northerners of the group have colloquialisms Craig is unaware of.
What's a diddlum?
The diddlum! It's a what's it where you all chip in?
It's a diddlum. You ever heard of a diddlum? No.
It's what you pay in a bit each week.
It's a savings scheme. Oh, well, it's sort of like a northern thing. You know, put that money in diddlum and buy some whippets and pound cakes and... Sorry, go on.
It might seem like an episode about the payment of a bill wouldn't be particularly suspenseful and more of a comedic episode. Now, although there are some really good comedy moments...
Jesus, what's a blue cock?
What's a blue cock?
A tight-fisted wanker.
Ha! It's good, I'm having it.
No.
It also delves into the kind of suspense that Tarantino would be proud of, including an incredibly tense game of five-finger fillet. This episode is that slow escalation of tension, like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, or like I said, most Tarantino films, and with the same kind of fantastic acting as well to really make it convincing. And with a head-flipping twist that some found slightly underwhelming, admittedly, but it's still a nicely set up twist that's no less unexpected. Number 5. The Harrowing. Schoolgirl Katie agrees to babysit for siblings Tabitha and Hector in their spooky old house. But it appears that there are scary things going on in this home. The Harrowing is the first episode I ever saw of Inside Number 9, and it's possibly not the best example. Firstly, because this is the only episode without Steve Pemberton, but also because the twist isn't really a twist. It's more just a slow trickle of information that becomes more clear over the course of the episode. The title comes from the Harrowing of Hell, from the apocryphal Gospel of Nicodemus, which the house Katie has chosen to babysit in has many paintings depicting this biblical event. And you should know me by now that I love it when mythology is used in an accurate way in media. This episode taught me about the Gospel of Nicodemus, which even by Christian standards is fictional, but it's interesting, and frankly reinforces my theory that the Apocrypha is far more interesting than whatever made it into the Bible. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Katie meets Tabitha, who tells us she's there to look after her elderly brother Andrus. But things are pretty sinister from the start. Firstly, the house is like an icebox, and according to Tabitha, Andrus doesn't have a mouth. And of course, meeting the strangely clawed Hector...
Oh, I play guitar, Miss Hepworth. I'm not a vampire.
It's all a bit creepy to say the least. And that's before the stuffed cat Katie finds suddenly comes back to life. It's full of gothic horror. This episode is very much that classic scary house with something unknown upstairs kind of story. And that's honestly the best description for it. So if you like that idea, you'll love this episode. Number 4. Tempting Fate. 3 council contractors have to clear out the flat of a dead hoarder. But when they discover a blood-stained floor, their lives will never be the same again. If you watch all the episodes up to this one, there's one thing, apart from the recurring actors, that you'll notice that keeps on showing up. And it's a small metal hair statue. It plays no part in the episodes and has no connection between them, but if you look, you'll see it. So, naturally, they had to make an episode that revolves around this hair statue. The 3 council cleaners discover a package containing the hair and a warning never to open it. But if that's not convincing enough, they also find a videotape of the previous owner reiterating this dire warning and then killing himself to really hammer home the threat. And the statue is so dangerous because it grants wishes, with the obvious loopholes to make them turn bad on the wisher. Classic scenario. However, I would say that despite the premise being pretty standard, the episode makes it slightly less so, because it's never really clear whether it's the wishes that are doing things or if it's all just a coincidence. At least until the twist at the end, which brings the whole episode into focus. So yeah, it's a standard idea, but with the acting and writing, it puts a new spin on things that still keeps you guessing. Number 3. A Quiet Night In. A couple of silent, bungling burglars try to steal a painting from a luxury home at the same time as the owner and his missus are having a serious fight. A Quiet Night In is the episode that I would say cemented this show as something truly unique, because it was only the 2nd episode ever, and they decided to make it without any spoken dialogue. The episode revolves around a pair of thieves looking to steal a priceless painting with all the slapstick comedy you can imagine. And because there's no dialogue, the episode has this Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chaplin silent comedy feel. And this episode is pure slapstick comedy. It still has that dark edge and it does go to a few dark places, but for the most part, the comedy is why you watch this episode. And of course, because there's no dialogue, the acting and writing has to be even better to compensate, which the episode obviously does. And even though Inside Number 9 is mostly suspense and horror, Shearsmith and Pemberton really shine as amazing comedians as well. It really shows their silly slapstick side, which is just as skillful as their other styles. So it was quite ballsy for a thriller TV show to have its 2nd episode be the silent slapstick comedy. But it worked fantastically in establishing the show and how you really can't predict anything it'll do. Number 2. Tom and Jerry. A man enters a downward spiral when he befriends a mysterious tramp. And that's it. Okay, so the description is not exactly extensive, but don't let that fool you. The subsequent episode is full of twists and turns. The title refers to teacher and aspiring writer Tom and his actress girlfriend Jerry. But despite the fact she's named in the title, Jerry isn't in the episode much. The episode revolves more around the mysterious tramp mentioned, the seemingly mild-mannered Miggs. But like I said, the episode is full of twists from the very beginning. Tom sees Miggs outside sitting on the pavement with a money cup, but Jerry doesn't see him, setting up the idea that maybe Miggs is in Tom's head. That may seem like a spoiler, but trust me, this episode has got a lot more to offer than that. And it's this relationship between Tom and Miggs that seems to get more and more insidious over time, as Miggs seems to slowly be taking over Tom's life. And when Jerry is in the episode, it's this relationship that continues to degrade throughout. But it's called Tom and Jerry and not Tom and Miggs for a very important reason. And that, of course, leads into the twist, which hits you like a truck by the way it's delivered, but not in a way that doesn't make sense. It's an uncomplicated, well-acted story, with a small cameo from Conleth Hill for the Game of Thrones fans. Number 1. Deadline. When Arthur finds an old mobile phone in his local graveyard, he makes the mistake of trying to contact the owner. But some mysteries are best left unsolved, and as Halloween draws near, Arthur is plunged into a nightmare of his own making. Now, Deadline isn't number 1 for its story, which isn't bad at all, but it's certainly not the point. The only problem with this episode is that it was filmed and presented live on television, so unfortunately, the experience is diminished somewhat. But don't worry, it's still the best episode they've ever done. And after that description, there's not much I can say without giving away what happens. Although it was live, there were a few technical issues, like the sound cutting out.
The thing is, Myra, I'm afraid I have some rather upsetting news.
I'm very sorry, but as you can hear, we're having a few problems at the moment with the sound.
Which is to be expected whenever you do anything live. But I can assure you that those technical issues do not take away from the brilliance that is this episode. Frankly, you have to hand it to the continuity announcer. The amount of times they had to go back to the technical difficulty screen, she was practically a character in herself. And although Rhys Shearsmith went a bit quiet after the episode aired, Steve Pemberton made sure and tweet a photo of himself, fine and healthy. Hello? Is there someone there?